Human life, the 12th order of life. The place where I'm standing about 100 years ago was a part of a quarry that was the largest limestone quarry in the world. It's another story for another time. 7,000 years ago, give or take a few years, Adam opened his eyes for the first time in the Garden of Eden, a place that might have looked something like this. I am in a redwood grove in a section of a park where the quarry once was. Wonderful how creation actively fills what man leaves vacant. So, Adam, and the criteria we're using to describe life, is he heavenly or earthly? Is he created or uncreated? Is he eternal or temporal? Now, I would say to some extent, for all those questions, Adam is all three things. He is both things. So, is Adam heavenly or earthly? That's a super interesting question. You see, he's made of two things, the dust of the earth and the breath of God. So, were you to have two parents of two different cultures, you would say you're both things, right? You wouldn't say I'm just my father's culture, I'm just my mother's culture. I'm both things and myself, right? So in the same fashion, Adam is earthly. He's also made of heavenly things, made of the substance of God in part, which brings us to more interesting thoughts about him as time goes on. Is Adam created or uncreated? Adam is definitely created by God, but unlike any other aspect of the created things of this world, he is also a lesser creator. We impose God's order on things. We create beauty that communicates to God and about God, much in the way the rest of creation does. Finally, the notion of whether human beings are eternal or temporal is a very interesting question, as Adam, really, the human being, lives in three separate cycles: Eden, the fall, and then resurrection. So in Eden, there's a perfect, unbroken relationship with God that probably would have gone on forever. Then, fallen humanity, we fall into a very interesting category. Death has come upon us, the curse of death, because of original sin. And therefore, because of that, human beings die. Now, the soul is eternal and therefore has a ultimate destination of one of two places, and that is either eternity with God in heaven or an eternity away from God in hell. So that we see this in a mixed answer on the topic of whether human beings are one thing or the other. And finally, that of course brings us to eternality. Jesus is the firstborn from the dead, right? Which means that when Jesus comes back, are transformed, or when we are resurrected at his coming back, depending on whether or not you die in this body before Jesus returns, this dead thing that is cursed by death will be renewed by a new thing, upon which the former laws of science will not apply. We see that Jesus walks on water. We see that, well, that's before his resurrection. But post-resurrection, we see that he floats into the sky. Now, that's either because angels lifted him, or, as I prefer to believe it, what we will be is no longer bound by the limitations of this body, and no longer under the laws of the former creation. It said all creation waits with waits for the revelation of the sons of God. And so we are going to be part of God's process to take creation out of its fallen and broken state to its ultimate state. And that seems to involve things, obviously immortality, but Jesus in that state could fly technically, or levitate, depending on your definition of these things. And then what goes beyond here is we leave this atmosphere, he either goes to the upper atmosphere of the earth or into space, meaning that this body will not require oxygen, will not be dependent on air pressure. All those things are laws that weigh upon fallen man and upon this body before it is renewed. But all these things that limit us, sleep, need for food. I believe if food exists, it'll be to enjoy and glorify God, but it will not be a requirement for human existence. So, human life, the 12th order of life. If I have blessed you, encouraged you, equipped you in any fashion, please like, subscribe, and comment.